Every AI benchmark you've seen this year is measuring the wrong thing. And if you're making decisions about which AI to use based on speed numbers, you're probably picking the wrong one. Here's what's happening. Companies like OpenAI, Google, Anthropic, they're all releasing these glossy benchmark charts showing their new models are 10% faster, 20% smarter, crushing the competition on standardized tests. And we all take it at face value. We see GPT-4o is faster than Claude, or Gemini beats them both, and we think that means something real about how these tools will actually work for us. But the numbers are theater. Not intentionally deceptive, necessarily, but they're measuring lab conditions that have almost nothing to do with how you'll actually use AI in 2026. Let me show you why, and more importantly, what you should actually care about instead. First, the speed lie. When a company says their model is 30% faster, they're almost always measuring latency in ideal conditions. That means a single request, no queue, running on their own servers with maximum optimization. But that's not how you use AI. You use it through a web interface. You hit a button, the request goes to a data center, gets queued, gets processed alongside 1,000 other requests, then comes back to you over the internet. The real latency you experience, what researchers call end-to-end latency, includes all of that. And that's where the benchmark number completely falls apart. A model that's theoretically 30% faster might feel only 5% faster to you, because 90% of the delay isn't the model, it's the infrastructure around it. It's the network, the server load, the API bottleneck. I've seen this firsthand. A model that scores higher on speed benchmarks can actually feel slower in the real world because the company running it has less infrastructure investment, so their servers are more congested. The faster model gets buried under traffic. Second, the intelligence lie. Benchmarks measure specific tasks in specific formats. Multiple choice questions, coding challenges with defined inputs and outputs, math problems with single correct answers. These are things that are easy to score automatically. But real intelligence, the kind you care about, is messy. You ask an AI to help you think through a problem that doesn't have a clean answer. You need it to understand nuance, to push back on your assumptions, to know when it doesn't know something. Benchmarks don't test any of that. A model can crush a standardized test and still be useless for actual thinking work because it's optimized for the test, not for reasoning. There's actually a name for this in machine learning: benchmark gaming. Companies tune their models specifically to perform well on the tests everyone uses. It's like teaching a student only the answers to last year's exam. They'll score high, but they won't actually understand the material. Third, and this is the big one, benchmarks ignore cost. They measure speed and accuracy in a vacuum. But the actual value of an AI tool is the ratio of quality to cost. A model that's 20% slower but costs half as much is actually better for most people. But you'll never see that comparison in a benchmark chart because it doesn't fit the narrative of our model is the best. So what should you actually care about in 2026? For things. First, real-world latency. Not lab numbers. Actual time from button press to response on the platforms you use. That's the latency that matters. If you're using ChatGPT through the web, test it. Time it. See how fast it actually feels, not what OpenAI claims. Second, consistency. How often does the model give you good answers versus mediocre ones? A model that's 95% reliable is way more valuable than one that's 98% accurate but unreliable. Benchmarks measure the average case, but you care about the worst case, because that's when you'll lose trust. Third, specialization. The best model for coding isn't the best model for writing, isn't the best model for analysis. Benchmarks try to measure everything at once, which means they measure nothing well. Pick a tool that's optimized for what you actually do. Fourth, cost per unit of value. This is the one nobody talks about. A cheaper model that's 80% as good is often actually better than an expensive model that's 95% as good, because you can use it 10 times more often for the same budget. Benchmarks ignore economics entirely. Here's the uncomfortable truth. The company with the best benchmarks is usually the company with the biggest budget for benchmark optimization. They hire people specifically to make their models perform well on standardized tests. It's a skill. It's also almost useless for predicting real-world performance. So when you see a new benchmark chart in 2026, and there will be dozens, don't get sucked in. Ask yourself, is this measuring what actually matters to me? Usually it's not. The answer is almost always to try the tool yourself, with your actual use case, for a week, and see how it feels. That's your real benchmark. If you want to actually keep up with what's real in AI versus what's marketing, subscribe. I break down this stuff every few days, and I'm not interested in the hype, just what actually works.